Welcome back to XUB and say hello to almost fully modified Ultra B. Let's talk about it. Just feel the rage that's burning up inside me. Now we say almost fully modified because the suspension is not done. That is still in the works, we're still doing that, we're still looking at it. But we've done full drivetrain, so we've done motor, controller, battery, EBMX controller, EBMX motor. This thing is amazing. Oh my goodness, I love it. I absolutely love it. I really do think this is the bike, and let's get into it a bit further. Now, how does this bike handle? This thing handles awesome. It handles like a full-size dirt bike does, just a lot lighter, a lot more nimble, and a lot easier to ride. You can stay in your attack position the whole time, like the Light B, and really like any electric bike, due to left-hand rear handbrake, which is just awesome. You stay in your attack position the whole time. All you have to worry about is gripping the bike. It is sick. Now this thing sends it. This thing really does send it. For really average suspension, this thing just flies. It flies like an absolute birdie, and it lands actually quite well for suspension that just bottoms out. That's purely because of the size of the bike. The bigger mass, the bigger wheels, the bigger everything, it just really handles stuff well. And I think once we do get modified suspension on this, or upgrade suspension on this, it is just gonna be bellissimo. So really keen for that. Outright power on this thing is insane. Like, this is just torque twisting, wheel stand, burnout, rolling burnout, ridiculousness. It just is. It's such a fun bike. It's got more power than a 450. It's got more power than you could ever want at legit the twist of a throttle. It is so much fun. I absolutely love it. I love the way this bike actually feels around the track. It just holds lines well, and I guess it rides like a full-size dirt bike, unlike the Light B is what we've been used to. It actually rides like a full-size dirt bike, but as I said before, that's a lot lighter. It's still nimble. Like, you got to use your throttle a lot more than what you do on a Light B to hit a corner tight and fast. You more have to throttle steer it than just sort of turn. Like a Light B will just turn, it'll just flick. But this is a little bit different, being bigger, but it's not 450 big. So it's still really, really nimble. And to be honest with you, we don't need 450 big. The only reason, in my opinion, we have 450 sizes, for one, if you're a big rider, and you need a bike that's physically larger, sure. But you don't need it for suspension, you don't need it for power. So in my opinion, from my standpoint, it's not needed. This size, this 85cc size, is really quite perfect. It is just awesome. So yeah, I can understand where people will still want to have a 450 size dirt bike. But I think if you give this a shot and you fully modify it with upgrade suspension, the whole nine, it is amazing. Yes, you are getting into the price of more of a Starkwagen, but I think this will actually kill a Starkwagen due to stuff like interchangeable battery. Like, actually being able to take your battery in and out of the bike is just insanely awesome, because you can have one battery charging while you're riding on the other battery, which is sick for track purposes. I hadn't really rode this bike much until the other day, and that's because Jared's just been going to town, modifying this thing, and I've been busy on my RM project. But when I actually jumped on this bike the other day, I was like, one, it took a second. I was like, okay, this is not a Light B. But I just fell in love. I fell in love straight away, and it's everything about it. All the handling of it, it's just really just put a smile ear to ear, because it is that bigger size, but it's also not too big, and it handles everything. As I said, once you get better suspension, and the power is ridiculous. When I say this bike is wheel stand twisting power, it really is. It's ridiculous. Like, when you wrap on the throttle, you better hold on, because this thing is going to take you along for the ride. It is just absolutely off the dial. It's just, it's like nothing else I've ever ridden. Like, granted, Jared's Light B over there is dumb power and would be faster than it, but it doesn't handle. Well, it handles, but it doesn't handle like this. This is a lot more planted, and so when you go, you go. Like, it's taking you on that direction, and you are going there unless you tell it otherwise. But the Light B is really fun. The Light B is dumb fun. We still love the Light B, and it really is too much power for the bike, but it's just dumb fun. But that's where the differences are. This bike, the Ultra B, is more of a, okay, we're riding. Let's put on our gear, let's go for a ride. Where the Light B, you can get away with a bit more. It's like, okay, let's just go for a bit of a brain dead ride. Let's just turn our brains off and just have dumb power, and you can just flick the bike around and do whatever the heck you want. Where this, it is more of a motocross bike. I will say this, it would be really nice to actually get a 19-inch rear wheel setup. The 18 is nice because obviously it's fatter, so you've got a lot more room, margin for error, but a 19-inch motocross tyre is a lot more nimble, a lot more tippy. So it makes a big difference for stuff like motocross, where enduro, this is great because, you know, you got more traction, more footprint on the ground on those gnarlier sections. It makes sense. But for motocross, for me, I would love a 19-inch rear wheel. That would be my only real gripe with this bike. And then obviously, as I said, once we get better suspension, that would be awesome. Another really quirky thing about this bike that I've actually fallen in love with, and am so happy that Suron actually implemented this, and I hope that everyone moving forward in the electric scene implements it as well, is having an Ushel handbrake. It is amazing. It is just awesome. No dirt bike has ever had that. I mean, okay, don't get me wrong, you can put a dirt bike in gear and it will do technically the same thing. So by me saying no bike has ever had that, technically you've always had that. But this is awesome. You just lock your brake on and you can just get off your bike on a hill. Like, I ride around with the camera all the time, getting a lot of these shots you're seeing now. And so a lot of the time I'm one-handed. So being able to have my rear brake locked while I get on the bike with the camera, whatever I'm doing, it's actually really nice. Whether I'm just pulling up and talking to my mates or whatever, you can just lock that handbrake on and then unlock it when you're ready to go, which is really, really cool. And it was definitely a wanky feature that I was like, are we actually going to use that? Is that just going to be dumb? But it's actually a very, very handy feature. So yeah, super stoked on that. Another nice thing about this bike is, I mean, granted, I haven't rode it hard enough yet, but still plenty hard enough, is the belt. It's holding up. It is holding up to the abuse. Unlike the Light B that literally just snaps on 20 kilowatt, this actually holds up to the punishment, which is like 30-something kilowatt on this bike, which is awesome. It's awesome that it actually holds up to that. So I'm super stoked on that because, as you know, our bikes are now chain drive because of that, because we just constantly snap belts. And so we had to go to chain drive, especially for Jared's bike being 30 kilowatt. We just had to. Another gripe with this bike is, with this new motor, there is a bit of dough at the start of the throttle. So I think we probably need to go up a sprocket size on the rear. Yes, we'll probably lose a bit of top end, but that's okay because it's got stupid top end anyway. So yeah, I feel like if we go to a bigger sprocket on the rear, we'll just get rid of that doughiness at the start. It's just a little bit too doughy for my liking. So I think if we went to a 60 or a 62 to sprocket, it would be awesome. But I mean, that is being nitpicky. This thing is still just stupid power. It's still way faster than any 450. It's just twist the throttle, go. But yeah, I think if that little bit of dough wasn't there, it would just be, you know, a bit nicer for things like wheel stands and whatever else. Now, the drivetrain on this bike is obviously a full EBMX drivetrain. So we've got the EBMX upgraded Ultra B battery, then we've got an X9000, and then we've got the new XUB-80 motor, which is an awesome motor. But is it needed? Where I am in our climate in Tassie, it's not needed. It actually isn't needed for us. I was actually more than happy on the stock motor. If you live in a hotter climate, apparently there's a lot of talk of the stock motor overheating constantly or at least frequently, but your mileage may vary. Like, it's still fast. It still is more than enough power with just battery and just controller. The stock motor is pumping out 30 kilowatt, almost 30 kilowatt, and it's more than enough. It's more than enough power for this bike. Don't get me wrong, if I can have the power, I want the power. Like, this thing is ridiculous. Like, once again, if you want the best of the best, it is. So battery range on this bike, I've been really happy with. So the other day I came in and I was probably out there for like an hour, 45 maybe, and I came back in with 50% battery. And I was like, I didn't even charge the full. I only charged probably like 70%. And I was out there for like 45 minutes, came back in, and I was still at 50%. And I was like, wow. I'm like, I wasn't mucking around. Like, I was still like, I was on the berries, as you can see in these videos. Like, I was still like, having a good ripperoo. Yeah, Sauron really nailed the Ultra B. The ergonomics of the bike, the full length seat, obviously being an Ushel motocross inspired bike. Now, it is a bit of a bummer that with this bike, you buy it for 10 grand and then you got to spend another 10 grand to have this bike. But to put that in perspective, it is definitely worth it over a combustion bike. So like, if you go and buy a bike tomorrow for 20 grand, let's say, combustion bike, you ain't spending your money once. This, you're spending your money once. You're lubing your chain, you're keeping up on general maintenance, but you're spending your money once. If you maintain good battery health and only discharge this bike down to 20% and only charge to a max of like 85%, you can see a bike that will last you like 10 years with just general maintenance, which is just awesome because that is unheard of in the combustion world, which is the main reason why everyone should have already gone electric, I'll be honest with you. But I'm not here to rant about that. We're Progressive E, we're not electric E. Go E now, otherwise you are useless E. We're Progressive E. We know that it is a progressive, evolving world, but this is my favourite bike for that reason. This is my favourite bike, and it is the bike that I'm probably going to be riding a lot more. And I'm really keen to see what the future has in store for us, because this is a great bike. I'm sure there's going to be bikes that are going to be even better again. So thanks for watching Progressive E. It'd be awesome if you liked, even cooler if you subscribed, and we'll see you in the next one.